Hello, it's Sarah from Hardcover Hearts, and I'm here with my week of reading wrap-up. This is where I talk about the books that I finished this week, the books that I made progress with, and what I could read next week, given my mood. So I had a phenomenal reading week. I think a lot of that was just because we're coming into the Thanksgiving 4-day holiday, so there was a little bit of lighter work. I had a commute, which down on the train, which helped, and I just got a lot done last weekend. So let's get to it, because I read a lot of great things. Unfortunately, the first one was not one of them, and this was the audio book I got out from my library of The Beautiful Ones by Prince. I had such high hopes. I really did. I love Prince, and I really wanted this to be a fantastic retelling and provide new insights. The intro is done by the ghostwriter who was chosen, and it offers just a wonderful bit of information about how Prince operates, how he works, the ways in which this author was introduced to Prince, and some of the assumptions he had, and kind of how Prince operates in this very specific world that he's created, and what his ideas for what this book could be look like. And so if anything, you got all of this hype of how creative this book could have been, only to then go into the book itself, and he passed away before the book was able to be completed. Therefore, we aren't able to really get the full picture. So I felt like it was unfinished, and I questioned whether it should have been done at all, because you are really left with this gaping, obvious holes of how little they actually got into the material before he passed away, which is just still a tragedy. So so I didn't like it. I give it 2 stars. The next up, though, redeemed my reading week. I had seen this on Sean from Past Story Time. She put it, I think, on Instagram, that she was really interested in this and wanting to talk. Has anybody read it? Wanted to talk about it. And This Is Pleasure by Mary Gaitskill. This is a small little book, and I was very excited when I saw it in London. It was right around the same time that I saw her make that post. So I picked it up and grabbed it. Love the cover. I just think it's fantastic. This is a Me Too story, but told through the prism of only 2 characters. And so, as we know, Me Too really is about the power of the collective voices, and it's about patterns, and it's about where things happen over and over and over again. So it was an interesting choice to only reflect the story in 2 points of view. One is a man who is at the heart of the controversy, and another is a female friend of his. And it's kind of set in this world of work, where work and personal kind of collide a little bit. This has so much nuance. It does not go in the direction that I expected it to go in, and had a lot. This would be perfect for conversations with friends or a book club. I highly recommend it. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I received a heads up from Robert from Barter Hordes. He said that there was a book called Turbulence by David Szalay, and that it was something that he thought that I would really enjoy. So it's a story of some interconnected characters. It starts off with two people having a conversation and getting on a plane, and there's a little turbulence, and so you're getting their story, and then it goes off with the one of the 2, and it hopscotches like that, kind of connecting each story, and it's just enough that you really get invested, and you want to know a little bit more, and then you're off to the next one. So I really enjoyed that. The writing was exquisite. It was compelling. The stories were interesting. Just tiny little vignettes and glimpses into all of these people's lives. I thought it was quite wonderful. So excellent job, Robert. Thank you so much for the recommendation. I gave that 4 stars. Then next up is a book that I'm doing as a buddy read with Heidi from My Reading Life and Valentina, who's a frequent commenter on so many of our channels. And it is Dear Friend, From My Life I Write to You in Your Life by Yiyun Lee. Now, we were both really interested because I think Sean the Book Maniac and Britta Bowler both read this and loved it. I struggled through this book. Now, not to say that there is not beauty in this book. There's absolute beauty, but I felt very abstracted and unconnected to the story that she was trying to tell. This is nonfiction, so this is for Nonfiction November, and it's refracted through these different authors that she's found in her life, and she's really trying to explain or express a deep fundamental depression and emptiness and fatalism that she has carried with her. What I liked about it is that I've just never read anything like this, and how she's explaining or talking about or justifying, if that's the right phrase, her morbidity and her sadness and darkness. There's not this idea of, in America or in the West we have idea of cause and causal relationship between, these things happened and therefore the person feels this way or is reacting in this way. She doesn't seem to follow that train of thought. She doesn't want to subscribe to that. How she wants to talk about it and think about it is through literature. And the challenge for me is that I am not as familiar with some of the authors that she is talking about and the works that she's relating to. So it was very difficult for me to feel connected. And she writes from this very passive voice. It's very intellectualized and it's very literary. So there's a huge distance between the feelings that I would expect to feel and actually what I felt when I was reading the work. Which is not to say it's not beautifully written. It is, and I tabbed a ton of pages and a ton of moments and thoughts that I thought resonated. But collectively as a whole, I'm not walking away from this feeling like I have a better understanding at all. If anything, I absolutely feel like it is interesting to spend time in a mind that you don't understand in any way, shape, or form. And it's so foreign to how I would think about the similar problems or situations. So for me, this was a miss, sadly. I gave it like 2.5 stars. Bummer. But a much better book that I got from the library that I absolutely loved. I've read many, many books about the English resistance and for World War II. I find it fascinating, but I have not read enough about life under Vichy France. And this really helped me get a much better understanding, and it has a female heroine at the core. So how could I go wrong, right? And it is a nonfiction book called Madame Fourcade's Secret War, the daring young woman who led France's largest spy network against Hitler. And this is by Lynne Olson. If you are looking for adventure, if you're looking for heart, if you're looking to learn a little bit about what happened and how resistance would try to push back against Vichy France and against Nazi encroachment into France, this would be a fantastic book for you to read. If you like to know about unsung women heroes from the past doing unusual things, this is the book for you. The audiobook was sublime. I highly recommend it. I gave it 4.5 stars. Loved it. Let's talk about another book that I loved, kind of off the heels of Dear Friend. I needed a boost. Luckily, I had Mel's Gone with the Book challenge to take up, and I did so with Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson. This is one of the books that I bought at Persephone when I was just in London. And with any Persephone book, you need to show off the bookmark and the end papers, so pretty. This was an absolute delight. Now, this is their penultimate, like their best work that they published. And this has even become a major motion picture. I think Frances McDermott was in it, and she's fantastic. This is the story of a woman down and out. She has one last chance to get a job, an interview for a nanny position, and she admits that she's not a very good nanny. So she goes and shows up at this very fancy apartment, and immediately the door opens and she's whisked into this life of this young socialite, singer, actress, on all of these shenanigans, all of these crazy adventures, and she's completely embraced by this woman, and she ends up having the best day of her life. And it is charming, lovely, comedy of manners, which I just adore. It was the feel good that I needed to kind of boost me up after some depressing reads. So I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. And then lastly, I listened to the audiobook of Silence in the Age of Noise. And this is by Erling Kagge. I think I pronounced his name correctly. When we were at Daunt Books in London, he was doing a reading, but we were so cold and tired. We didn't have the energy to stay, unfortunately, so missed opportunity there. I read his walking book, and that was, I absolutely adored it. I thought it was fantastic. He's known for being deeply philosophical about a specific topic and just going deep and exploring that topic, and this is no different. I found Silence to be very soothing, very thoughtful, and really enjoyed listening to the audio while cooking Thanksgiving dinner. So it was just a great way to calm down and just kind of focus on what was right in front of me. And I highly recommend Silence, especially if you're looking for something to kind of get you in the spirit for relaxation and to help you kind of think about how to reconnect. This would be a great book. So let's talk about what I'm currently reading. So I'm doing a buddy read with Celia. We're doing Ways of Seeing by John Berger. This is really wonderful. I can see how in the 1970s this would have been revolutionary. What he's really done is taken a feminist lens to art and how women are objectified, but he's also democratized it and taken it out of the hands of the philanthropic super uber rich. Really compelling ideas and allows us to think differently about masterpieces and works of art. I'm going to try to finish this up today and really excited to see how it ends. And then I'm also reading A Single Man, speaking of depressing books. This is by Christopher Isherwood. I have always wanted to read this, and I've always wanted to read some Christopher Isherwood. He of cabaret writer fame. I find him a compelling character, find him very, very interesting, and I'm so shocked at how different this is from the movie, or at least my recollections of the movie. As an example, all I seem to remember is about his relationship with the Julianne Moore character, and he's played by Colin Firth. And yet Julianne Moore has barely made even a entrance into this at all, and so I feel like I'm missing something. Maybe my memory is really bad about the movie, but I remember the movie being very beautiful, very lush. And the book is not that. It's kind of sparse and it's a little hard-edged. So it's a very interesting experience. I'm going to also try to finish this today. And then Doug's Newburyport, again, still making progress, still pushing forward. I'm going to really devote some time this weekend. I know I say that every weekend. Let's see. And then I'm also listening to a great audiobook. It's called Husband Hunters, American heiresses who married into the British aristocracy, and this is by Anne de Courcy. This is, if you love Downton Abbey, if you love anything around that kind of time period, this is perfect for you. Or if you love Edith Wharton, this is also something that you might want to check out. It's a real life story of all the heiresses who were kind of elbowed out of the New York scene because of just really tight controls and controlling socialites at at the upper echelons. And so they ended up going to England and being courted by the peerage there. And some of the things that are the interest of the pros and cons, they were seen as really wonderful, exciting, new young things. And yet at the same time, the moment that they married, all of their money and all of their power then resided with their husband, and they became property of their husband, which I think was probably a big shock and surprise for some of these women. So I'm enjoying it, really interesting, and a lot of details about very specific people, which is delightful. And then for next week, I'm gonna try to make some more progress before the end of the month on maybe one or two of these. I'm probably not gonna get that far. And I'm also gonna try to maybe get another novella in, we'll see. But I'm very excited to start this. This is I Loved You More by Tom Spanbauer. I've heard so many great things about this. This was one of my Bert's List books. I'll put a link to that list below because that is really the gift that keeps on giving. There hasn't been a bad book in that list. So I have very high hopes for this one. So that's it. What are you reading? How's your reading holiday been? If you've been in the United States, have you read any of these? I would love to hear your thoughts. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.